Hello, and welcome to episode 110 of the Mouse's Mates Knitting Podcast. My name is Mandy, sometimes known as Mouse. Please don't call me Amanda. And Miss Poppy was in this basket, but she's gone for her early afternoon wander. She might be back before we finish, who knows. This is going to be a slightly different podcast to normal, because last week Dave was on holiday from work, and so we treated it like a holiday. We had lots of days out, and so I'm going to tell you all about that and my trip to the cardiologist. But first, I have got a little bit of knitting to show you. The one thing I wanted to show you, I appear to have left it downstairs. I can't see it. Never mind. It was my car knitting, which is my brother's Musselburgh hat for Christmas. Also, I've just caught sight of it, and so I reminded myself, I'm testing this. I set Dave on the search for an affordable microphone that would work with my phone, and so he recommended this one. It is what he does for a living, but not at this level. He deals with very, very expensive equipment, very high-end stuff. But yeah, he said this one should work. So hopefully it is doing. I gave it a little test. And it was louder, but I thought the sound was a little bit fuzzy. I don't know. This has just arrived, so I don't know how much battery charge is in the microphone. The receiver just plugs into the bottom of my phone and takes its charge from the phone. So that should be okay. But the mic might run out partway through. I don't know. I'm hoping if it does, it will tell me on the screen and then I can stop and swap. Anyway, that's that. Because we've been going out, and really all I've been doing is a little bit of knitting on the Musselburgh, either in the car or wherever we've been. I haven't got a lot of knitting done in the past week, but I am still valiantly trying to finish this. This is my blue Sonnenstunden that I was hoping to have finished in time for the yarn show. Clearly it wasn't, because that was over a week ago. This is going to ruffle on the microphone now, isn't it? It's almost long enough. Oh God. This is going to add another level of insanity and anxiety to what I'm doing, because I can't keep covering the microphone up or brushing stuff on it, because it'll make horrible noise. It is down to about excuse me, sorry, that was probably very loud as well, wasn't it? It's about down to my waist, which is not long enough. I've got quite a way to go. I think about another 5 inches. Having set a target of the yarn show to have it finished by, and failing, I set the next target, which was this weekend. Today is Tuesday, so it's possible, but unlikely. The pattern, which will be linked down below, you've seen this a load of times, and I've also got a pink one that I'm knitting. It is the Sonnenstunden by Evie Knitwear. The yarn I'm using is Cascade Heritage in Riviera Heather. I really love the pattern. As I say, I've got another one cast on, and I'm casting another one, a third one, on at the weekend. So, and possibly a cardigan the same. So yes, you can see I do really like the pattern. It's got a little bit of interest where it's got this moss stitch on each raglan, where a raglan seam would be. The only thing is, this is quite fine yarn, and it's on not very big needles, and so it's taking rather a long time. There are also the sleeves to do once I've got the body done. I started this back in April or May, I think, with a view to having it finished to wear on cooler summer days. That didn't happen either. I have done a little bit of work on it, although not all of that. That was where it was when you saw it last, and since you've seen it, I've done this much, but not all in the last week. Unfortunately, otherwise I could possibly get it finished by the weekend. Apart from that, I've been knitting on the 2 pairs of socks I showed you last week. No, I only showed you one of them. I'm not going to show you that one today. Are you following this? I said I'd got a sock that I'd cast on for Denise's Year of the Sock. And come on, brain. I didn't show it to you. I'm sure I didn't show it to you because I was going to pull it down. So I pulled it down because I wanted to try something. I wanted to do an experiment. So this is the sock. And I have experimented and it has worked. Well, almost. I'll tell you why almost in a minute. I wanted a bigger leg. I wanted more fabric in the leg than there is in the foot. I do a 64 stitch sock, and on a 2.25 needle that fits my foot perfectly, but it's a little bit tight on my leg, which even when my ankles aren't swollen, I have quite chunky thighs. I have chunky thighs, but these are not thigh length. This is nonsense. I'm very tired. I should probably have had a nap. I have quite chunky ankles, and so I wanted more fabric for the ankle and leg. But I didn't want to mess around with stitch counts. So I tried knitting the leg on a 2.75 down as far as the heel. When I got to the heel, I put in a German short row heel, which is something I've only just started using, and ordinarily I wouldn't have put that in with a self-striping yarn, but I was trying to use up as much of the yarn as I could, and it actually worked out that the 4 colours, they are 4. I know those two look the same, but they are different. The 4 colours made the heel. So when I got to the heel, I changed to a 2.25 needle, and I used a 2.25 all the way to the toe. And that's when I made a mistake, because ordinarily I measure from the point of the heel to where I'm going to start the toe, 19.5 centimetres. Then I do 4 plain rounds, and then I start my toe shaping. But unfortunately, I forgot to do the 4 plain rounds, or to add that extra onto the foot. So whilst it fits really, really nicely around my leg, it is a little tiny bit too short. It may block out, but the fabric I've got is quite dense. I don't know if you can see. I did this on a 9-inch circular, which again is something I don't normally use. And my gauge is slightly different, I think. I don't know whether I pull it tighter, but this is quite a firm fabric, which is good. That's what you'd like for the foot of a sock, because it's going to wear out less quickly. But I'm in 2 minds whether to pull the toe back and put those extra 4 rows in. I think I might have to, but what I'm going to do is knit the other sock first. And hopefully remember to put those rows in before I do the toe, and if not, I'll be pulling both toes back. You can't have everything, can you? At least it worked. The yarn I'm using, this is going to be rustly. Oh no, not too bad. Signature 4-ply, West Yorkshire Spinners in Pink Flamingo. September's prompt is pink, and I thought, well, you can't get a lot pinker than that. It was already in stash. I'm trying to use up commercial sock yarn stash. I know, don't laugh. So that's going to be my September year of yarn. No, Year of the sock. I really should have had that nap, honestly. I'm hoping there will be other socks. I've got about 8 pairs of socks prepped and ready to go for September and October. The problem comes in October because Stephen West MCAL starts. And despite the fact that I was so adamant I was not going to do the MCAL, I didn't enjoy last year's. I got part way through Clue 1 and pulled it down and knit a slip extravaganza instead. I wasn't going to do this one. I wasn't going to do it until everyone else had finished it and I could see what it was like, and then I would decide. Well, then the video came out with all the kits, Stephen Penelope kits, and I was sucked in by the colours is what happened, because colours are kind of like a drug for me, and I saw all the lovely colours and all the possibilities, and the next thing I knew I was hauling out all my stash and going through it and picking about, I think I've got 5 possibilities. There were originally 3, and then he did another video showing how you could use variegated or speckled yarns and you wouldn't quite get the crisp definition, but it could work. And then I added another 2. Which ones I'm not even going to show you. I'm not showing you because we know what happened last year. How many times did I change my mind? Even I lost count. And then I ended up not making it in the, I'm a bit worried about this. I don't know if you can hear it rustle every time it moves. This probably wasn't the ideal top to be wearing it with. So I'm going to wait. I'm not caking anything up. I'm going to wait until Clue 1 comes out. I'm going to look at Clue 1 and then I'm going to decide, hopefully, on my colour scheme. But prepare yourselves for the fact that I might get like a week, 2 weeks into it and change my mind, because that's what I do. I am a Libra. We are apparently incapable of making up our minds unless somebody makes it up for me, and then I want to do the opposite thing. But yes, Dave is refusing to be drawn on which colour he thinks I ought to use. So it's anybody's game at this moment. There's a blue, a green, oranges and browns, kind of wine colours and darker blues, dual tones. And I can't remember what the other one I had sorted out was. I've taken pictures of them all. I can also mix and match between them. I'm stressing about it already. Not about the actual knitting of it, just about the choosing of the colour. And let's face it, it doesn't matter, does it? Because I like all the colours, and if I knit it and I really, really like it, but I wanted it in green, say, I'll just knit it again in the green. This is not something to get concerned about. Anyway, I'm going to shut up. I'm going to shut up rambling, and I'm going to get my knitting out, and I'm going to do a little bit of knitting while I talk to you. Oh, I need a counter as well. Where's that? Down there. So, I had a lovely surprise at the weekend. Jana from Finished Knitting Stories recommended my podcast. Some of you might be here because of that, which was lovely. And I did have a bit of a fangirl moment. I haven't commented on Jana's podcast yet because I was too busy going like an idiot. So thank you, Jana. I was going to tell you about our week. I'm going to tell it to you in chronological order. So last time I recorded it was Monday, and you know all about the yarn show, and you know about the fact that we had to go back to Shop Mobility in Yeovil to take the scooter back because the key broke off in the lock. And we'd done all that before I podcasted, so I recorded. Tuesday, we had a really chilled day. Dave did some jobs that he wanted to get done around the house. I sat on Zoom most of the day, I think. Did a lot of knitting, rested and recovered from the excitement of Sunday. And then Wednesday, we went to the Tank Museum at Bovington. Oh, here she is. I knew you'd come back when you heard me talking. Come on. The Tank Museum is huge. It is absolutely huge. And it is, of course, full of tanks from really when they were invented up to the present day. But there is more to it than that. It's worth spending a whole day there. I particularly wanted to see the World War One exhibition. I should tip you down a bit, really, shouldn't I, so you can see her. Which was amazing. I took a load of video. I can't put it all on. Not that anyone's probably interested in seeing it. But you go in and you sort of go to a recruitment office, and there's a figure behind a desk and a recording, talking to you as if he were the recruiting officer. Then you move on to the next part and you're in France, and it's a street and there's rubble and, soldiers being treated by nurses. And then you go around the corner and there's trenches, actual, it's all built out of concrete and stuff. But you can walk in the trenches and there's, what do they call them? Models? Mannequins, I think. Like life-size mannequins all over the place. And sort of like quarters built into the walls where there's little dioramas set out of, there's a man on his bunk reading and a cat on the bunk bed above. It was really interesting. And then you come out of that and move to my least favourite bit, which was all about the war horses. We'd lost Dave. I'm not sure where Dave had gone, but we got about halfway through and I was in tears, and I was saying to Ewan, please just tell me how to get out of here. And you have to go all the way round to get out. But we just whizzed through. I didn't spend much time in there. I just found it too upsetting. And then you move into the sort of World War II and onwards bit. And whilst I'm inclined to say once you've seen one tank, you've kind of seen them all, I can now identify a female tank from a male tank. I won't bore you with the details. And what made it interesting for me was all the other displays, uniforms, and particularly with World War II, they'd done interviews with veterans talking about particular battles, and then that would be with a tank that would have been at that battle. And there's photographs and personal belongings and all sorts of things that make it a bit more interesting for those of us who aren't as interested in the tanks. We went to the cafe for a coffee. Hideously expensive. We'd taken a packed lunch with us and we went outside, and they've got some really nice picnic benches. We found a nice shady one and we had our lunch. And by then, I thought we'd finished. How silly was I? I thought that was it. That was not it. We'd only seen half of it. I was pretty tired by then, even though I had the mobility scooter. But we went back in and we saw the next half. And I think I would like to go again because I didn't take in much from the second half of the day because I was really tired. And there were a couple of elderly gentlemen, because they've got the tank there that was used in the Brad Pitt film Fury. Both the tank that Brad Pitt was in and then the enemy tank that they were fighting against, they're both there. And Dave was showing me that on the enemy tank, something had bounced down the underneath of the barrel of the gun and jammed the turret so it couldn't swing around. So that's why the tank had been abandoned and captured by British soldiers who fixed it and then carried on using it. And that's how the Tank Museum happened to have them both. And these two gentlemen were listening and said, "Oh, that's really interesting. We didn't know that." And because it's a bit like IKEA, but with tanks, you kind of go in and then you follow the path round and through everything to make sure that you don't miss anything. You follow this route. So we kept bumping into them. And a bit later on, we were looking at Ewan's favourite tank, and I had got separated from the boys because this tank had names written on it, and I was sort of going round it trying to find the names, because one was the girlfriend of the driver and one was the girlfriend of someone else in the tank. So it was like a quiz thing. You had to find the name to see whose girlfriend was whose, kind of thing. And one of them said to me, "Are you actually enjoying this?" And I said, "You know what? I am." And I was. So that was good. It was a good day, if a long day. And then our plan was to go on from there to meet Peter and Lauren at West Bay, which is where the series Broadchurch was filmed. And we go there quite a bit, or used to go there quite a bit, because the police station in Broadchurch is next to a shop. Its office is, I think, in real life. But the shop is called Helmet City, and it sells motorcycle clothing and helmets. And so we do tend to go there a lot, or we did before the pandemic. And we were going to meet them there and get some fish and chips for tea. But when we got there, it was so hot. I was really tired and it was ram-packed. But because it was late in the season, I mean, we're into September now, a lot of the little sort of huts that sell fish and chips were closed. So there were huge queues at the ones that were open. And I said to Dave, "Look, let's just go home. We'll get takeaway at home." So that's what we did. And Peter and Lauren came and we had various different things for tea. I had a kebab, I think Dave did. Peter and Lauren, I think, had burgers, and Ewan had fish cake and chips. So we all had different things, and poor Peter ran round all the different places and picked them up for us. And then the next day, Thursday, is the bit that you're probably waiting to hear about. My trip to the cardiologist. To begin with, I was very tired still, and I had to get up very early in the morning for me. I had to get up at 6:30, and whilst I normally wake up at 7:30, I don't generally get out of bed much before 9, because I need that time for all the bits of me that are stiff and seized up to start working again, so that I can actually manage to get washed and dressed. But I had to get up and get washed and dressed and go to Taunton to the hospital. And we'd left early because we didn't want to hit all the school traffic. And we have to cross the 303 to get there, the A303, and the junction is notorious. It's a notorious accident black spot, and it's really difficult to get across. And of course, we'd left plenty of time to get over the junction. We just sailed through it. There wasn't another car in sight, which is just typical. So we got to the hospital an hour early. And so we went for a coffee and then sort of wandered slowly up to the cardiology department. And quite frankly, it was a bit of a waste of time. I thought I was going for a scan of my heart. No, I wasn't. I was going to see the cardiologist for about 3 minutes while he told me that they needed to do a scan of my heart. And they're going to send me an appointment for that at some point in the future. He's going to prescribe, or he wants some tablets prescribed, but he's written to my GP to prescribe them when I was there, sat in his surgery, and he could have given them to me there and then. And I asked him, the tablets that he wants prescribed, are they okay for my kidneys? Because you may not know, if you've not been here before, I have kidney failure due to an autoimmune condition, which has also attacked my thyroid, and that's caused me to have heart failure. Oh yes, he says, your kidney function is normal. It's very much not normal. So I was like, okay. And then a couple of minutes later he said, but you might want to get your GP to check it every 2 or 3 weeks just to be on the safe side. So I'm waiting to see what, if any, tablets I get prescribed, and then I'm going to ring my kidney consultant and say, are these okay? So we came away from the hospital. I was tired. I was extremely hot. We've had the hottest week of the year. My clothes were uncomfortable. Everything was wrong. And when I get hot, I get angry. I don't know why. I can only assume it's something to do with the menopause. I am well through the menopause, but getting hot and getting angry has not changed. So, poor Dave kept saying to me, why are you so angry with me? And I said, I'm not angry with you. I'm just angry. But what are you angry about? The fact that I'm hot. Poor Dave. So we came home. We were meant to be going on into Taunton to do some shopping. And he said, where do you want to go? I said, let's just go home. Just want to go home. Because I was in a right mood by then. So we came home and we had some lunch. And then Dave said, if you don't want to go out, I'm going to paint the front door. So I said, okay. And then I fell asleep sitting on the sofa with my knitting in my hands and woke up. And I was no longer angry and the front door had been painted. So Thursday was a bit of a rest day. Friday, we decided we were going to go to the seaside for the day. Not to sit on the sand and bask or anything, because I don't do sunshine really. So we started off in Sidmouth, which is one of my favourite seaside places. And it was absolutely rammed with people, to the point where it's an old town, an old village, and the pavements are very, very narrow and the roads aren't much wider. And there were so many people on the pavements that they were also walking in the road. It was just absolutely ram-packed. And I said to Dave, we're never going to find anywhere to park. So we moved along the coast to the next place, which was Beer. Beer is actually the name of a town. And that wasn't much better. So we carried on along the coast a bit further. And we ended up in Seaton, which was far less crowded. There is a tram that runs from Seaton to Collyton and Colliford, I think. And I said, because Dave likes trains and trams, would you like a trip on the tram? We're on holiday, why not? But we were already, I've got out of order. We went and we sat in a restaurant to have something to eat. And we were discussing this while the food was being cooked. And we only had until 4:30 on the car park ticket, which meant that we would have had to get on the tram 20 to 3 at the latest. And it was already 2:00 and we were waiting for our food. So we ditched that plan, but we'll do that another day. It's not far from home. It's literally 40 minutes away. So we'll do that another day. And then we had our meal. I was knitting on the hat while we were waiting for food, and a couple came in after us and sat on a table sort of across the room from us. And what I heard the lady say to the man, "Oh, look at that girl knitting." And it was quite flattering to be called a girl, bearing in mind I will be 59 next month. But then I started to get a bit self-conscious, and I was thinking, oh, perhaps they think it's not hygienic. But anyway, I carried on knitting till the food came. And I'd ordered... Right, okay. I have a suspicion that people not in the UK will not know what a saveloy is. And it's pretty hard to describe. It's like a hot dog, but it's in a weird casing that I tend to peel off and not eat because my brain says it's plastic. I know it's not plastic because you are supposed to eat it, but my brain doesn't believe that. I had a saveloy and chips. It came loads of time after Dave and Ewan's meals. My chips were all a little bit not cooked, and the saveloy was pretty mediocre as well, which, bearing in mind it was nearly £10, I was a bit disappointed with it. And it kind of set a precedent for the rest of the holiday. After we'd eaten, we went our separate ways. Ewan wanted to go to a shop and he went off there, and Dave and I walked on my mobility scooter down to the front, and I did take some video of that. I'm going to try and add the video from Seaton and another video at the end, and I might try and put some pictures in as well. I don't know how much storage space I've got on my phone, that's the problem. And we had a bit of a bimble up and down the front. It was ridiculously hot. And then Ewan came and joined us and we had an ice cream, and then we came home because we were very tired. And then on the Saturday, which was the hottest day of the year here, Dave and his friend Nick went out on their motorbikes in all their motorbike gear, and how the pair of them didn't get heat stroke, I really don't know. But they went to a bike show in Ilfracombe in Devon, which is about an hour and a half, hour and 40 minutes away. They had a really nice day, even though it was so hot. And I spent the day dyeing the last of the things I needed to do for the Halloween mystery boxes. And then on Sunday I said, why don't we go out for lunch? So we did. We went only down to the local Wetherspoons, where I ordered, because Ewan had had it the day before, katsu chicken, which is a chicken breast in a Japanese curry sauce. And I tried a little bit of Ewan's the day before, and it was really nice. And first of all, their meals came and mine didn't, again. And then when mine came, I was looking at theirs and thinking, I wish I'd had that instead. Which is exactly what I'd done when we'd been in Seaton on Friday. So that was annoying. But then I had a piece of hot chocolate fudge cake and ice cream, and that made up for it. Then we went for a wander around the shops, and then we came home. And then yesterday, which was Monday, we had to take the scooter back. The hire period was over. So there's a company in Yeovil called Pittards, and they make gloves and leather goods. And Dave gets a lot of his leather offcuts there for making his things. And we'd been there the Monday before, and literally half an hour after we left, the shop shut. The company had gone into administration. And I wanted to go to Hobbycraft and get a couple of bits. And I said, shall we go on to Pittards afterwards? So we did. But they weren't open. And it was really sad because on the wall next to the door is a stone that's carved. And it says that the stone was laid in 1964, which is the year I was born. So that's a whole lifetime for me. By somebody Pittard. And that it was a family firm and 6 generations had built up the business. Well, by now that must be 8, I would have thought. And it's gone into administration. So it's really sad. But then we took the scooter back, and then we went on to, there's a country park between us and Yeovil called Ham Hill, and it is a hill. And from it come hamstone, which is a very yellowy type of stone that a lot of the houses around there are built with. But it's become a country park, and there are car parks and lookout places where you can look across miles and miles of farmland. And we went up there to have our picnic, and there was a huge black cloud coming. And so I sat on a rock and did a little bit of knitting and waited for it to start to rain. And when it started to rain, we got in the car and just sat and listened to the rain for, I don't know, half an hour or so until it stopped. It was really nice. It was just a nice end to the holiday, you know. And because it's been so unseasonably hot, it has been like going on a foreign holiday, because these are not normal temperatures in the UK. On Saturday, I went out into the garden at about 8:30, 9 o'clock, and we've got a thermometer on the wall. And I said to Dave, oh, it's lovely and cool out here now. Looked at the thermometer and it was 27 degrees, which I think is around 81 in Fahrenheit. Ordinarily, that's far hotter than we get, but it felt cool because it had been so much more hot. I'm not sure that's very good grammar. But yeah, so that's what I've been up to, and that's why I don't really have much but a sock to show you. There is a cast-on party this weekend that I'm going to. I've got yarns organised into bags, and I know what patterns I'm going to knit with them, but I haven't put the needles with them, and I haven't wound a lot of it yet, so I've got that to do. So yeah, next week's podcast is probably going to be all about what I cast on at the weekend. Do you remember at the beginning of the year I said I want to have all my needles cleared by the 1st of December? It's not happening. Not unless I just take everything off the needles. That's the only way it's going to happen. So, pardon me, I'm going to go now, because according to my my row counter on my thumb, I've done 4 rows. This is considerably more than 4 rows. I suspect I've been forgetting to click it. Apparently I can't do 2 things at once anymore, especially not when I am tired. So I am going to go. And I will see you next week with probably a ridiculous amount of things that I've cast on that I had absolutely no business doing. After this weekend, I'm casting nothing else on apart from socks. I've got to make that caveat. I am allowed to cast on socks because I've got October and Halloweeny socks that I need to get done. I'm casting nothing else on until Advent and my Advent knits. That's it. And I want you to hold me to it. No more for the next 6 weeks. No, more than that, isn't it? 10 weeks? It's loads of time. What am I talking about? I can finish all these 27 things I've got cast on already. If I just give up eating and sleeping, I can have it all done in time. Anyway, I hope the sound's been better for you today. I have no idea if this is still working or not. And that's all I have to say. I'll give you one last glance of Poppy. And I will see you next week. I'm going to try and tag some video on. If it doesn't work, I don't know what to tell you. My IT skills are sadly lacking. Anyway, I'll see you next week. Bye, guys.